there. So let's talk about another disease in humans that is called cancer. One of the most dreaded, fearsome, frightening disease for the mankind, that is cancer. Literatures prove that thousands of years back, old literatures, they are also proving that there was such disease. Obviously, the name may not be given as a cancer, but there are some descriptions of the diseases, deadly diseases, which match with the cancer. So not a recently developed one. It has been there with the mankind since a long, and it is one of the most frightening one, lethal one. In many cases, it can lead to the death. One of the disease in the top 3 positions regarding to the death caused by the diseases, in that it stands in that list of top 3 over there. So let's talk about this disease. We all understand that the cell life, which is called as the cell cycle, the one in which cell will grow, cell will differentiate, and cell will divide. I'm sure you remember that G1, S, G2, and M phase. You remember, na? The cell cycle, G1 to S to G2 to M, in which the cell will grow, differentiate, divide, and cycle progresses over there. The whole cycle is controlled by compounds which are called as cyclins and CDKs. You remember CDKs? What are CDKs? Do you remember what are CDKs? Cyclin dependent kinases. You are 11th pass out students, you must know this thing. It was a chapter number 10 in which we had studied about this stuff. Anyways, all this is done, controlled by genes. There are genes which are responsible for controlling this entire cell cycle. So everything is a regulated phenomenon in case of cell life. The growth that it experiences in its life, the process of differentiation that it goes through to turn into the tissue cell, performing specific function. And as per the need or requirement, it is supposed to divide. So the division of the cell. All this has been a regulated phenomenon. And there are checks and balances in this entire process. For example, there are checkpoints, if you remember. Checkpoints, you remember? One in the end of the G1 phase, towards end of the G1 phase, another one towards end of G2, and another one between metaphase and anaphase. So 3 checkpoints, you remember that. So there are arrangements to ensure that anything goes wrong in between stoppage of the cycle, exiting from the cycle, the quiescent phase, if you remember, all these arrangements are there. So everything is so well planned and designed and arranged, meticulously arranged, that ideally there should be no problem. Ideally speaking, there should be no problem. Everything is perfectly arranged. However, it is the mutations mutations, the alterations of genes, alterations in genes called mutations, structural changes in DNA known as mutations. They are the ones which create gene mutations. And there, this control over the growth, differentiation, and division of the cell is being lost, and that might lead to a condition where uncontrolled cell division goes in a cell and cancerous cells come into existence in our body. Cancerous cells do not come from outside. They are our own body cells. They are our own body cells. Just because of the gene mutations, several mutations are required, not a single mutation. Series of genes need to undergo mutations in order to stimulate cancerous growth in the body, and that is called as oncogenic transformation, by which our normal cells of the body transform themselves into cancerous cells. How many of you could understand the basic idea behind what is cancer? What I mentioned is that cancer is something which is prevalent in mankind history since thousands of years, as descriptions are there available in our scriptures. Number two, presently it is in the top three diseases, top three fatal, fearsome, frightening, dreadful diseases. In that list, it is at the top of this chart. Number three, what I mentioned is that everything in the life of a cells, in the tissues, everything is planned. The cell birth, cell growth, cell differentiation, cell division, cell death, everything is a planned phenomenon. And for everything, there are genes to control each such aspect. So the cell life is very much a regulated and controlled phenomenon. But when these genes which are controlling these aspects through their products, when these genes undergo mutations, and not one gene, several genes, 7 to 8 mutations are required for the cell to transform itself from the normal to cancerous cell. It requires specific steps. Initiation is required, promotion is required, progression is required in this activity. It's not that just one mutation and it is converted to cancerous cell. It needs a specific procedure, and this procedure has like steps involved, such as let's look at them. Initiation. To have those gene mutations is about initiation. Up to this point, these cells are normal, but they go through gene mutation. That's the beginning of cancerous growth. They start changing themselves, start behaving differently from the normal cells. This is called as neoplasm. A new type of growth occurs. That is the word given, neoplasm.